Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Ahmed, and today we're diving into something a little heavy. We're going to talk about some of the most controversial leaders in history. Now, when you hear the word leader, you might think of inspiration, progress, someone who guides their people to a better future. And sometimes that's true. But other times, a leader's legacy is a tangled mess of progress and pain, of nation building and utter destruction. These are the figures who didn't just rule, they fundamentally reshaped their countries and in some cases the entire world, leaving behind a legacy that people are still fighting over today. These are the names that you can't just mention casually at a dinner party, unless you want things to get really awkward, really fast. We're talking about individuals whose actions sparked wars, revolutions and debates that are still raging. Their impact is undeniable. But whether that impact was for better or for worse is a question that can split a room, a country, or even a family. They are the ultimate symbols of division, the historical figures who force us to confront the very best and the absolute worst of what humanity is capable of. They make us ask the tough questions about power, ideology, and the price of ambition. So, as we go through this list, I want you to be thinking, this isn't just a history lesson, it's a conversation. We're going to look at 5 figures who are often at the top of these most controversial lists, and we'll explore why they earned that title. Before we even begin, I'm curious to hear from you. Drop a comment down below right now and tell me, who do you think is the most controversial leader in all of history? Let's get this debate started. Alright, let's start with a name that, for many, is the very definition of evil, Adolf Hitler. You can't have a conversation about controversial leaders without him. It's like trying to talk about basketball without mentioning Michael Jordan, except, the complete opposite in every conceivable moral way. Hitler's rise to power in Germany is a chilling story of how a nation, crippled by the aftermath of World War I and economic depression, could be seduced by a message of nationalistic pride and scapegoating. He promised to restore Germany to its former glory, and people were desperate to believe him. It's a terrifying reminder of how charisma, when mixed with hatred, can be one of the most dangerous forces on Earth. His leadership, of course, led directly to World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history, which claimed the lives of over 70 million people. But his infamy is forever cemented by the Holocaust. This wasn't just a byproduct of war, it was a systematic, industrialized genocide. The final solution was a state-sponsored campaign to exterminate the Jewish people, along with millions of others. Roma, homosexuals, disabled individuals, political dissidents. It's a level of calculated cruelty that is almost impossible to comprehend. The sheer scale and bureaucratic efficiency of the killing machine he built is what makes his legacy so uniquely horrifying. It wasn't just hatred, it was hatred turned into a government policy, a checklist, a train schedule. Today, Hitler remains the ultimate symbol of what happens when ideology is stripped of all humanity. There's no real debate about his legacy in the same way there is for others on this list. The consensus is pretty clear, he's the benchmark for evil. The controversy isn't whether he was good or bad, but rather, how it happened. How did an entire nation follow him? How can we prevent such a thing from ever happening again? His name is a warning, a ghost that haunts modern history, reminding us of the depths of human depravity and the fragility of civilization itself. He is the reason we have the conversations we have about human rights and the dangers of unchecked power. Next, we travel to the Soviet Union to talk about a man whose nickname was Man of Steel, Joseph Stalin. And in many ways, he was. He forged the Soviet Union into a global superpower, taking a largely agrarian society and dragging it kicking and screaming into the industrial age. He oversaw the victory against Nazi Germany on the Eastern Front, a feat that came at an unimaginable cost but was crucial to the Allied victory in World War II. For some, especially in the context of that war, he is seen as a strong, decisive leader who did what was necessary to save his nation and, arguably, the world from fascism. It's a complicated picture because you can't deny the industrialization or the military victory. But the steel in his name also represents the cold, hard, and brutal nature of his rule. To achieve his goals, Stalin unleashed a reign of terror on his own people. His infamous purges saw millions arrested, executed, or sent to the Gulag, a vast network of forced labor camps where prisoners were worked to death in horrific conditions. It wasn't just political opponents, it was intellectuals, artists, military leaders, and ordinary citizens who were deemed a threat, often for no reason at all. The paranoia was all-encompassing. A misplaced word, a joke told at the wrong time, could mean a death sentence. He created a society where neighbors informed on neighbors, and children were encouraged to denounce their own parents. So, where does that leave his legacy? It's deeply, deeply divided. Was he the modernizer who defeated Hitler, or the paranoid tyrant who murdered millions of his own citizens? The truth is, he was both. Unlike Hitler, whose evil is almost universally condemned, Stalin's legacy is still fiercely debated, especially within Russia. Some look back with a strange nostalgia for the order and strength he represented, while others see him as a mass murderer on par with anyone in history. He forced a choice on his people and on history: rapid industrialization and military might, at the cost of millions of lives and individual freedom. It's a terrifying bargain, and one that makes him one of the most polarizing figures of the 20th century. From the Soviet Union we move to the most populous country on earth, China, and its founding father, Mao Zedong. Chairman Mao, the great helmsman, is an absolutely colossal figure in modern history. He unified China after a century of humiliation and civil war, and for millions of Chinese people, he remains a revered figure who stood up to foreign powers and restored national pride. He's the face on their currency. His portrait still hangs over Tiananmen Square. He fundamentally transformed Chinese society, promoting literacy and increasing life expectancy. From one perspective, he is the architect of modern China, the man who laid the foundation for the global powerhouse it is today. You cannot understand modern China without understanding Mao. And with Mao, it is a monumental, but his grand social experiments came at a cost that is almost beyond imagination. The Great Leap Forward was his ambitious plan to rapidly transform China from an agrarian economy into a communist society through industrialization and collectivization. It was an absolute catastrophe. His policies led to one of the deadliest famines in human history, with estimates of the dead ranging from 15 to 55 million people. Think about that number. It's a number so large it loses meaning. It's like the entire population of a large country simply vanishing due to policy decisions. People were starving while state granaries were full, all because of ideology overriding reality. Then came the Cultural Revolution. To reassert his authority, Mao unleashed the youth of the country, the Red Guards, to purge society of impure elements. It was a decade of violent chaos. Intellectuals were persecuted, historical artifacts were destroyed, and society was turned upside down. Millions were publicly humiliated, imprisoned, tortured, or killed. It was a war on culture, on history, on thought itself. This is the core of the controversy with Mao. How do you balance unifying a nation and restoring its pride with policies that led to the deaths of tens of millions and the near-total destruction of its cultural heritage? He is both a symbol of national liberation and a symbol of catastrophic human suffering, often to the very same people. Now we turn to a leader whose name is synonymous with a specific horrifying event, the Cambodian genocide. We're talking about Pol Pot. While the other leaders on this list ruled over massive nations on the world stage, Pol Pot's reign of terror was concentrated on the small country of Cambodia, but its intensity was unmatched. He and his Khmer Rouge movement seized power in 1975 with a vision that was radical even by communist standards. His goal was to create a completely agrarian, classless utopia. To achieve this, he declared Year Zero, effectively attempting to wipe the slate of history clean and restart civilization from scratch. It sounds like something from a dystopian novel, but it was horrifyingly real. To build this new society, Pol Pot ordered the entire population of Cambodia's cities to be forcibly evacuated to the countryside to work as slave labor in collective farms. This wasn't a suggestion, it was an order enforced at gunpoint. The capital, Phnom Penh, a city of millions, became a ghost town overnight. Money was abolished, religion was outlawed, family units were broken apart. But the most terrifying part was the targeted extermination of anyone deemed an enemy of the revolution. This included intellectuals, doctors, lawyers, teachers, artists, and even people who simply wore glasses, as that was seen as a sign of being an intellectual. The Khmer Rouge wanted to eliminate every trace of the old world. The result was a genocide. In just 4 years, from 1975 to 1979, an estimated 1.7 to 2 million people, nearly a quarter of Cambodia's entire population, were killed. They died from execution, starvation, disease, and overwork in the infamous killing fields. Pol Pot's regime is a chilling case study in the dangers of absolute ideology, of a vision so pure in the minds of its creators that it justifies the annihilation of anyone and anything that doesn't fit. There is no controversy about his legacy. He is not a builder or a unifier. He is remembered for one thing and one thing only, presiding over one of the most barbaric and swift genocides the world has ever seen. His name is a testament to the horror of utopian dreams turned into murderous nightmares. Finally, let's step back in time to a figure who is perhaps different from the others but no less controversial: Napoleon Bonaparte. Unlike the 20th century dictators, Napoleon is often romanticized. He's the military genius, the short guy with the funny hat, the brilliant strategist who conquered most of Europe. And he was brilliant. His military campaigns are still studied in war colleges around the world. He rose from obscurity during the French Revolution to become Emperor of France, a story of pure ambition and talent. He brought order and stability to France after the chaos of the Revolution, and that's a big deal. The people were tired of the bloodshed and uncertainty, and he gave them a sense of purpose and national glory. He also introduced the Napoleonic Code, a legal framework that was revolutionary for its time. It forbade privileges based on birth, allowed freedom of religion, and specified that government jobs should go to the most qualified. This code was a massive step forward for civil rights and influenced legal systems all across the globe. You can still see its fingerprints in the laws of many countries today. For many, Napoleon is a hero, a progressive reformer who spread the ideals of the French Revolution: liberty, equality, fraternity, across a continent still stuck in the feudal dark ages. He's seen as a modernizer, a true great man of history who shaped the world for the better. But here's the other side of the coin. To spread these enlightened ideals, Napoleon waged near-constant war for over a decade. The Napoleonic Wars engulfed Europe, leading to the deaths of an estimated 3 to 6 million soldiers and civilians. He was an autocrat who seized power in a coup, crowned himself emperor, and installed his relatives as monarchs in the countries he conquered. To the Spanish, the Russians, the Germans, and many others, he wasn't a liberator, he was a foreign tyrant, a warmonger whose insatiable ambition bled the continent dry. So was he a progressive hero or a megalomaniacal dictator, a champion of liberty or an imperial conqueror? The answer, even 200 years later, depends entirely on who you ask and where they're from. So there you have it. 5 leaders, 5 incredibly complex and deeply stained legacies. From the absolute evil of Hitler and Pol Pot, to the ideologically driven devastation of Stalin and Mao, and the world-shaping ambition of Napoleon. Each one of them held immense power, and each one used it in ways that left the world permanently scarred. Their stories are a powerful, and often terrifying reminder that history isn't a simple story of good guys and bad guys. It's a messy, complicated, and often brutal affair, driven by individuals whose actions echo for centuries. The lines between reformer and tyrant, liberator and conqueror, can become terrifyingly blurred. The question of who was most controversial is almost impossible to answer definitively. How do you weigh the industrial-scale genocide of the Holocaust against the ideologically driven famine of the Great Leap Forward? How do you compare the brutal political purges of Stalin with the continent-spanning wars of Napoleon? It's a dark and difficult calculus, and there's no right answer. But the act of asking the question, of confronting these legacies, is what's important. It forces us to think critically about power, about leadership, and about the lessons we must learn from the darkest chapters of our past to ensure they are never repeated. Now, I want to turn it back over to you. We've gone through the list, but the conversation is far from over. Based on what we've discussed, or on your own knowledge, who do you think was the most controversial leader, and why? Was it someone on this list, or someone else entirely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be reading through them, because this is a discussion that truly matters. Thank you so much for joining me for this difficult but important topic. If you found this video valuable, please give it a like and subscribe for more deep dives into history. I'm Ahmed, and I'll see you in the next one.